Lights, camera, action!
Welcome to Ropes2Reels. I'm at Adam Kotom.
I'm at I Like Drew Ferris.
But you almost weren't at I Like Drew Ferris. I think if I'd left you outside for 5 minutes longer. Drew, why don't you tell the people listening at home what is happening outside right now as we are recording?
Oh, it is a wonderful thunderstorm. Actually, I really hope it continues because I love sleeping to this stuff.
Me too.
What I don't like is when thunderstorms terrify me. Like, all right, so I have an 07 Ford, which means it still runs on basic gasoline and has no electronic features whatsoever.
Just another reason that you should monetarily support Ropes2Reels and the Wrasslun Show Network so that you can help Drew buy a decent car.
Eventually, once this one dies.
But at least you've got a car. I have to sit there and admire whatever you've got. So another reason to support the Wrasslun Show Network financially so I can get a set of wheels.
So anyway, so what I like listening to my music in the car. I do put on the radio from time to time, but sometimes there's some stuff you don't hear on the radio, right? So I put my songs on there with this little antennae device where you plug it in the headphone jack into the phone, and then it sends a radio signal. So you can actually tune the radio to a station that's not in your country or city or town or whatever. And then it plays it that way. It uses your antenna, plays it through the radio. I unplugged it to text you because I don't have a key to this place to let me in. I'm just going to sit in my car and just wait for him to let me in. A crack of thunder, waves, maybe, I don't know. Okay, how do you know when you count thunderstorms, there's a crack and you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi?
To see how many miles away it is.
Exactly. It was about 3 miles away.
Oh
and when
God.
it cracked, I guess my antennae picked it up because all of my speakers just went at the same time, and it terrified the living. You opened the door and I booked it.
Yeah, you were running pretty fast. I don't think I've ever seen you run that fast, actually, in your life. So, yeah.
You've never seen me run.
That's a good point. It's a good point. But I'm going to still guess that was the fastest you've ever ran.
It's possible, because I'm terrified. So if this podcast ends halfway through, it's called because of a power outage.
If you hear it just go dead all of a sudden, you know it was because we were both struck by lightning for all the terrible things we've said in the past.
Some of which recorded on Ropes2Reels.
Actually, I'd probably say most of which was recorded on the network without question. So here we are, Drew. We're reviewing another WWE Studios film. You picked one last week.
It's funny. I picked the first one. You picked the most recent one.
I did pick the most recent. Wow, I didn't even make that connection. But yes, which kind of answers our very important question. But you know what? Let's ask it anyway because it's format. Drew, let's ask that very important question.
What in the Halliburton turkey does this have to do with wrestling?
That's a great one. I like that. Well, it is WWE Studios' latest film. They purchased the rights to distribute the film along with Blumhouse or Blumhouse. Is it Blumhouse or Blumhouse? Blumhouse.
It's the drama version of Blumhouse, not the horror version.
That's right. Although there's a lot of supernatural.
It's sci-fi, but it's not horror sci-fi.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We'll get to that in a second. But yes, it is the latest WWE Studios film. And Drew, what were your thoughts heading into the movie before you watched it?
Because since it just came out, neither of us had seen it before.
Yeah, this was both of our first time watching.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I don't know, maybe WWE's trying something different. They don't really go for elongated stories anymore, but maybe they took some gimmicks that were going to a professional wrestler, like a magician. Wait, what was that magician that just kind of came into one pay-per-view and then left?
Phantasmo.
Why do I have no doubt that you know exactly what I'm talking about?
His do you remember what his finish was?
No.
He wedgied his opponents without touching them.
Okay, that actually is kind of brilliant.
Impressive, right?
But anyway, so I thought maybe a more modern take on a magician angle that just never existed. And so, okay, he kicks people's butt using sleight of hand. That'll be pretty cool. You know what? I'm down with it. We'll see what happens. I was cautiously optimistic because also WWE Films is very hit or miss.
Yes. My initial thought heading into it, a little less complicated. I was just really surprised by the twist in the trailer. The trailer blew me away because I was not expecting the twist of like, oh my God, he's actually stopping metal. What is happening here? He's really magic. And the concept of that was enough to really intrigue me. Going into it, my hope was that the movie was as good as that trailer. It would blow me away. Now, do you have the plot? Do you want to read out the plot, or do you want me to do the synopsis?
Well, I can do a quick plot summary. It's a very straightforward movie.
Yeah, sure.
So this dude named Bo, we're introduced to him, and he's just kind of showing people his interesting card tricks, which... you know what? I'll get more into what I was going to say about that when we actually talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So he does all these tricks, and then he also has to make money for his sister because their dad left and mom passed away a year ago. So he is now the...
I'm pretty sure that both the parents...
Was it both? Oh, right.
I'm pretty sure he suffers from Batman syndrome, yes.
Well, not Batman syndrome. They didn't die at the same time. It's only Batman if they die at the same time. You're thinking of Spider-Man.
I've been corrected. My apologies.
Sorry. Wrestling's your thing. Nerdom isn't my thing. Nerd is... I'm going to keep going.
Please do.
So both parents die, and he has to support his sister. Now, magic tricks does earn him a couple bucks, but he really makes his money drug dealing. Then it becomes your typical movie that way, where he gets a little too deep in with his drug dealing friends, and he boils down into a world he didn't really want to get into the first place. But the twist on this movie is we actually see him testing this metal in his arm, this metal that's been imprinted in his arm. It comes in for half a second, and then the movie continues as a drug dealer trying to make a drug dealer with a heart of gold, trying to help his family. He meets Holly, who's girlfriend, or who's just girlfriend material thrown in there, not really any huge character development. And he starts to realize that this the drug dealer leader, what's his name? The gang leader? Is that what we're calling?
I believe it's Angelo.
Angelo, right. So Angelo is the leader, and he's kind of a chill dude. I really liked him in the beginning. But then he starts to get a little more gangbanger, as the protagonist put it. A little more deep into the world, making him cut off hands, making threats to his family, starts to bring himself into Bo's life. Angelo's bringing himself into Bo's life, trying to control him. And Bo, who's using this new power that we discover is a giant electromagnet that he threw into his arm to help him with a lot of his tricks, which he explains from a backstory where some dude stabbed his hand a lot and then just covered it with leather so that he could stab his hand and not show blood. Do I need to go into more detail about that?
No, I think the more detail we can go to after the break when we get into our thoughts.
So just to give
we'll break it down.
A nice idea. It's because of magic. That's why he put it in his hand. Because he's an engineer student that didn't go to college because mom passed. So he put the electromagnet in his arm so that he can control metal and basically becomes Magneto. He goes to his I'm skipping ahead a bit because Angelo puts himself so far into his life that he wants to escape. To escape, he starts cutting the drugs in half, selling twice as many to many people with half as much product in them, trying to earn enough money to pay Angelo and for his sister and him to escape. Angelo finds out, threatens his life, threatens his family's life, and things get a little too much out of hand. A rival gang abducts him, tries to steal everything. He uses his black magic trickery, or I guess science trickery, because it's not magic in this, to get the money back, get the drugs back, and try and pays D'Angelo, who is getting impatient and kidnaps his sister. He is not happy about this. So he goes to his old engineering professor, or teacher, I think it was in high school, to upgrade his electromagnet arm to just lay waste to everybody. Well, doesn't really kill anybody because that wouldn't be a WWE good guy. So he rips out dude's molars, he throws a bat, even though takes a concussed hit to the back of it, but that's beside the point, and just threatens D'Angelo with a bullet that he can control with his magnetic powers. D'Angelo says, "You're free, you're good." Bo pays him back. He, his family, and this girlfriend all move to San Diego and live happily ever after. Well, we think.
That's a lot to take in. So we're going to let you digest that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll give our thoughts on all those scenes that Drew so graciously talked about. Coming up.
Some people listen to their podcast in the car. Me, I record mine in the car. So join me, Jeff DeHaan, for the go home spot. It's where I'll talk everything from NXT, Raw, SmackDown, or whatever other wrestling-related stuff swims through my head. Join me for the go-home spots, only on the Wrasslun Show Network.
All right, Drew, let's get into our thoughts about the film. The first thing I'm going to say before we even break down scene by scene this film is that the entire time I'm thinking that Bo may have lost his parents, but all he really needs to do is Bo leave. And then he'll...
I knew... I didn't even write it. I didn't even write a single Bo Dallas joke because I think, no, Adam's definitely going to write all of them before I even have a chance.
How could you not? Like, how could you not? He just needs to Bo leave, and he'll be all right. So, breaking it down piece by piece, let's first of all talk about Jacob Latimore. Man, was I ever impressed with him.
Wait, is this the lead?
This is the lead, Bo.
Really?
I was majorly impressed. I thought he put in a very impressive performance. I thought he was likable right from the start. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think he gets the right kind of roles. I think he's a future star in the making.
Really?
I loved it. I'm taking from your reaction, you disagree.
I found him incredibly dull.
Really?
With this kind of character, this performer, this guy who puts on a facade, you'd think that his real life and his performance would be different. But they're the exact same person. Like when he's on the streets, I'm expecting somebody... Here's what I'm expecting. I was expecting something like Push. You ever watch Push?
No.
Push was a movie with Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning about a guy who has telekinetic powers.
Okay.
It's a decent film, actually. But what really sells it is Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning. Their chemistry together. The way they work off of each other. Because Chris Evans is a charismatic dude, no matter how way you put it.
I think I wanted to see that movie. Wait, that is telekinesis in it?
Yeah, he pushes. That's his whole shtick.
Maybe I'm thinking of another movie. Okay, keep going.
So anyway, I was thinking something like that, a charismatic man, because this is a street performer. But he's just like, yeah, this is your card? Yeah. Or I'm thinking Chris Evans, where he's just like, I want this guy. I want this guy to keep going. But I don't know, I just didn't find him very charismatic, and that's kind of necessary for this role.
I think you were expecting Chris Angel, and what you got was David Blaine.
No, I didn't even get David Blaine.
See, because I totally got that vibe. This idea of like the very subdued... Because David Blaine, when he does his street magic, he's not really out there, or he's a very subdued, subtle performer. He's all about getting close to you, getting real personal with you. In fact, a lot of street magicians work that way. So I thought the performance was really nuanced because it was, I thought, exemplary of what a street magician, or at least the more famous street magicians, are all about. When you get into the more extravagant performance aspect of it, then I think of guys like a Chris Angel, like a David Copperfield, a Penn and Teller, for example, showy guys. But street magic, that's real, man. That's keeping it 100, and that's what I got from the character of Bo. I thought it was really, because Bo the magician and Bo the person are the same guy. He doesn't have a persona per se. He's just doing magic tricks because he loves magic. So you and I will have to agree to disagree on that one.
All right.
But, you were underwhelmed and I was overwhelmed. I liked it. I thought he was really good.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the electromagnet that he rigs into his arm. Pretty good effect. I liked it. I thought it looked pretty decent.
Decent makeup. If it was better lit, I'd be more impressed. But
sure.
Decent makeup.
But you know what? I'll be willing to forgive it for two reasons. A, you got to hide that kind of stuff on a lower budget, and B, he's not in a well lit place, so I'll buy it. It made sense to me.
Yeah, it's just okay. That's it. I'll admit that. But here's the other thing I wanted to talk about.
Please.
Is it just me, or does magic in film kind of lose its illusion with editing?
Well, sure, of course.
It's nothing against the film. It's just when they show a lot of street performers and focus on their reaction, it's because they don't want to focus on the trick. So why have them do it so much was beyond me. So it just, when I watch magic tricks performed in film, it's like, well, you can do that with special effects. So I get that they're supposed to be impressed, but it's doing nothing for the audience.
Well, I mean, I think it would probably have to come down to the audience that you're looking for, right? Is the audience there to believe that? I mean, is the audience that comes there? Is WWE Studios and the director and the writer, who are one and the same in this case, are they to believe that everyone who is going to that theater has seen street magic, knows what it is, what it is that, and how it amazes people? I think the reactions are important.
Oh, I'm not saying that they're not. It's just they go back a lot. Like, and so there's one where he moves the chair to show us that that's what the electromagnet does.
Right.
But did you need the other 3 scenes to show the street magic?
I think that in certain senses, yes, because I think that if you just showed the stuff using the electromagnet, I think you would be easier to look at him and say, he's a fraud.
Yeah, but with the pacing of the movie, that makes sense. Like in the first ones where he's showing the first card trick,
right,
where it goes into the dude's pocket and ends up in the woman's purse.
Sure.
That's great because we don't know about the magnet at this point. That just shows that he's a great magician. Perfect. And then they go to another one to show a different kind of card trick. And I thought, good, where he puts it into the glass for the girlfriend. And I thought, good, that's good. Every other one doesn't have a purpose.
I think the purpose is to show his hustle, that he's out there trying to keep making that money. You know, he's still not giving up on that magic dream of his. I mean, I don't... I don't know. I never had a problem with it. And I actually thought it was a nice way to break up the dreariness of the drug dealing lifestyle he had fallen into. And I think that's as much about it as it is for anything. Maybe the purpose was just to help along with the pacing. Because that's what I think. I think that if we had focused only on storytelling elements with it as opposed to world building elements, I think you'd end up with a much drearier movie, a much sadder movie. And I think that especially with a character like Bo, who is a very hopeful, optimistic character, you need to have that balance. At least that's how I saw it. I felt like it was to add balance to it, and I liked the magic stuff, but I like magic.
I think you actually put it in for me as well, making that guy more performance shot. Like I know what you're saying with the David Blaine, and I get that, but having him be more charismatic, have more fun doing the magic, and a perfect example when he does the wallet trick with the people at the club, I thought was brilliant, but just the more reserved aspect, throwing the wallet back and the phone back, it's like, that was wonderful. It's just, if he brought a little more light into it, it would have been a nicer contrast instead of just, here you go, that's yours, and have them do all the... Anyway, I guess that's just me. You have a different view of that.
Yeah. I totally saw it as like, it's old hat for him. Like this idea that he walks in there and they're like, hey, how about a trick? Like he gets asked this every single time he's in there, which is a lot based upon the interaction that he has with the promoter. So this is old hat for him. It's not about the performance. They know what he can do. He's seen their tricks. It's just, yeah, okay, great. I got to go to my next job kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, speaking of that.
So I thought it was particular to that particular scene.
You and I have very different opinions on this movie.
Very much so.
This is, I think, the first time we have very different opinions on the movie.
I agree, but it's good. That's good.
Also, when they do that thing where they clasp their hands and do a subtle hug.
Yeah.
When they did that, I was thinking his arm must hurt because he has to do that constantly.
Absolutely, but
he hides it well.
That's the sacrifice you make, right, for the trick. I want to talk about that hand chopping scene. Genuinely disturbing, as far as I was concerned. That whole scene, I felt you felt the pain that the dealer was in, and you felt the hesitation and the anxiety and the fear from Bo. I thought that whole scene was completely disturbing, and I thought it was just really, really well done. It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
I'm hard pressed to agree with you. The thing that I didn't like about that scene, or maybe it's because I liked Angelo better. Angelo was more of a character for me. I really enjoyed his performance, and also I just love that actor. Psych is so good. I loved him so much, and to me it showed that WWE does know how to write bad guys, because this was such a cool bad guy. I really dug him, and then there's the overly dull protagonist.
You know what's so funny, and I'm going to quote straight from my personal review, which we'll get to obviously later, is that I thought Dule Hill went a little too over the top. I thought he was a little too cartoonishly villainous for me. I felt like he wasn't subtle enough.
I thought one of the weaker needed to be points. More like him.
See, and I was the total opposite. I felt like Jacob Lattimore was an incredible anchor, and I thought Seychelle Gabriel as Holly was another subtle, realistic performance that anchored the film. And I felt like the rest of the cast, could use a few lessons, so to speak. I thought like they were not quite where the other two were, but I felt that's why they were in the positions that they were. Now, I still like Dule Hill, but I just found him just slightly too cartoony for me.
Did you say you like Holly?
Yeah, I love the performance.
Her performance. She does
great.
One thing.
She was wonderful in that performance.
She's a one-note damsel, one-note love interest. I'm sorry,
No.
damsel's not the right term. She doesn't get in trouble, but she's a...
I would say that's unfair. Why would you say she's a one-note damsel?
Because she's there for Angelo to bask his feelings and seem like a man because it's a woman, and she gets put in a conflict that Angelo saves her from.
I would disagree with that completely. I think that she's there to act as a yin to the yang of Bo. She's there to...
That's the sister, though.
No, I don't think so, because the sister can't relate to Bo the way that Holly can. They're both prisoners, and Holly is there as a way to help. Holly is there to help inspire him to break out. And she also, by the way, to dispute the idea that she's a damsel in distress, she actually goes out and tries to help him by collecting some money for him so that he can help get them out of that place.
Not collecting money. She takes money out of her scholarship
Well, that's
account.
what I'm saying. She's certainly not a damsel in distress. She's independent, going to school.
And I didn't mean to say damsel in distress.
Right.
I meant to say love interest.
But either way, I feel like she plays a very important role as a motivator to Bo, and as a partner to him, a support system that he didn't have before she came into his life. So I thought she played a very pivotal role in this film. I thought she was important to the characters, building that world and building the arc of Bo.
Okay, so when he finally explains what the electromagnet is and she just says, okay, sure, and moves on, you didn't have a problem with that?
No, and I think the reason is because they are cut from the same cloth. She understands sacrifice. This is the point, is that the character of Bo does these things because sometimes, and very often, sacrifice is necessary in order to become a great magician. It's incredibly important. And at the same time, this girl, Holly, she has sacrificed a lot to put her future forward and go to school and to be close and to stay somewhere where she's being abused. And she's not in a good place, but she's doing it because she needs to go to school and she needs to, she feels like she's trapped there. So she's another person that understands where Bo is. So I feel like through that, they've been able to rely on each other and comfort each other so that they can both move forward.
I still think they could have spent a lot more time on her instead of just giving her exposition roles.
I think it is one of the weaker parts of the film, is that a lot of the dialogue is expository, but I don't think that's a problem related to one particular character. I think that's a general flaw of the script itself. What other kind of main things stuck out for you about the film?
I hated the lighting. I hated the lighting so much in this movie. The lighting made you focus on everything that wasn't there.
Okay.
Like the bruising sequence where she takes off the shirt. I had to rewind it.
Oh, really?
I didn't see them.
Okay.
I just...
Maybe adjust the picture setting on your TV, because I saw them perfectly.
I guess so.
Sorry.
But I thought, okay, maybe there's glare outside, and I turned the glare on. I haven't had this problem with any other movie, though.
All right, no, that's fair.
It's really, I don't know what it was. But
I can't say anything because it didn't make an impact on me one way or another to say, man, it's really well lit, or no, I didn't really care for it. It didn't make me notice one way or another.
And that one, and also the entire bar sequence where he's stealing from the safe. That is another horribly lit scene.
Okay.
Where it's only because people speak that you know what's going on. It's not visually telling you.
I'm going to have to come over to your place and watch this movie, because I had no issues whatsoever seeing what was happening in the film at all. So
okay.
I don't know. Maybe I have a really well-lit laptop, or you have a poorly lit TV. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just... It's not maybe that I didn't see it. It's just the lighting didn't reflect or present itself in the way that other scenes. It was inconsistent to me.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. That's a fair criticism, I'd say. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have one more problem. Again, This is just with plot.
Sure.
It's just I understand. Why didn't he play poker?
What do you mean?
Oh, I have to get money. I'm going to steal from this friend who's been good to me for years. Yet there is a casino in this place, as we've seen. Why not at least explain why he doesn't play poker with a sleight of hand?
I would say two reasons. A, practical budget reasons. And B, I would say also because there are pit bosses that are designed to catch and sniff out those sort of things.
Yeah, but then do that and see him fail at it. It's just, it seems like it's maybe it's nitpicking. Maybe it's not actually.
But he needed to succeed at that point, though. You couldn't have him fail at that point again, and then be in even more trouble.
He just betrays this friend that we're built, that there's a mutual trust between them, and he just betrays without anything. Just show that maybe this is his last resort instead of have him walk through a casino.
You don't think that is his last resort?
Well, no, because he walks through with cards playing, and all we see are cards hanging in his background. The first two magic tricks we see are cards.
I'm talking about stealing from his friend. You don't feel like that the weight of that was his last resort?
It felt rushed to me.
Wow. I don't know. You and I are just on different pages when it comes to this, because I totally felt the weight of that scene when I watched it. All right. Fair enough.
Also, for a man that's dedicated in magic, he kind of just releases his magic trick to this woman that he's seeing.
Yeah, that is one thing I was just like, hey, a little early, buddy.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Also, not even his trick. He explains another magician's trick.
The answer to that is the plot. That's the reason why.
Fair enough.
Not sure how I feel about the professor just kind of showing up in the third act and being totally on board with this kid putting an electromagnet in his arm and being willing to help him. That seemed a little out of place to me.
Especially when he goes, this isn't for a trick, is it? This is the point where you call the people to help this kid.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement for sure.
Or at least, okay, yes, I will help you. Help me, get over here. Nope, no, I'm not. I'm talking to my grandmother. Get over here.
Well, he seemed like a nice guy. I don't think he would have done that.
If his name was Professor Ex Machina, I would have been perfectly fine with it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I definitely felt a little ex machina. It takes more than one voiceover at the beginning of the movie to make that work.
Also, sorry, do you have anything? I've kind of been taking over.
No, that's fine. This is great. This is educational.
It's just one problem I had with the final Angelo and Bo confrontation.
Sure.
So he fires 3 bullets and Bo stops all 3.
Yes.
Okay. Another lighting problem with the lights flickering way too long to see what's happening, where, okay, that's fine. Just, I understand, but have it at daytime or something. Anyway, I hated the lighting in this movie. So he stops 3 bullets and drops 3. Okay. Maybe it's just me and I like fun movies. Wouldn't it be cool if he picked up 1 bullet, fired it beside his head, picked up another, fired it beside, and then threatened with the 3rd? Kind of like what Magneto did in X-Men First Class.
I think this movie has enough comparisons to X-Men movies with the way that climax went without needing to draw more attention to it. The burrowing of the bullet into the skull directly stolen from the climax of the first X-Men movie. I don't think adding any more references to the films would have probably helped this.
Well, not
this
reference. I'm just saying
all.
something like that. Obviously, the context is much different in the much better First Class movie.
Maybe I'm just more easily impressed because I thought that was a pretty badass climax to end things up. He burrowed it slowly until the point where he got him into submission. I thought that was
for a movie
great.
Grounded in realism, taking an aluminum bat to the back of the head and you're still able to function.
Well, I would say either the guy's pretty stupid. No, I mean, yes, but there's also there has to be a bit of suspension of disbelief, I think, to even if for a film grounded in realism. In the same way that, like, for example, Iron Man. Iron Man is a film grounded in realism, but you still have to suspend your disbelief that you're watching a superhero flick and that this guy's suit could realistically be able to do these sorts of things.
They're over-the-top characters, though. These are very well... They try and ground themselves with an over-the-top plot and grounded characters. That's why I'm saying if he was a little bit more eccentric and a little bit more charismatic, that would have
allowed him to take a bat to the head.
Yeah, because then there's not as much real, like, oh my God, this drug dealer who has this giant magnet is now going after somebody that's taken after his sister, is something grounded, is something you see in a general action movie. But the fact that he has just a powered arm stops some from getting hit in the head. The balance in this is just all over the place.
I would say that if I had to give a reason, or if I had to argue the idea that he could take it to the head, I'll say the will to for his last stand, or
adrenaline.
Maybe adrenaline, or perhaps the electromagnet soften the blow.
Sure,
I'm willing to buy it. Is all I'm saying that as a spectator, I was willing to buy it. The only other thing that I had before going on to the fun facts was that I get what they were trying to do by not showing us the final trick, because our imaginations are way more creative than anything we could have shown us on film, and budgetary reasons, of course. But it still felt like a bit of a cop-out, and I was a little frustrated by that final scene.
I also hate those because it's like,
right.
hey, we're getting a sequel. It's like, don't think of yourself as great. Okay?
I don't think that's what they were trying to do with it at all. I think they wanted to end it on something spectacular, and they just didn't have the budget to do it. So they said, well, we'll just leave it up to their imaginations and see what happens. But like I said, it did feel a bit of a cop-out, a little frustrating with that.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if his dad was the one that actually stabbed his hand? That would have been interesting. But no, let's have a giant light sequence that's also very poorly lit, even though it was daytime like 5 minutes ago and he's in this tiny darkened room.
I have a call to action for you. I want you to rewrite this script, because it sounds like you have some pretty grandiose ideas about what this should have been. And I would love to hear Drew Ferris's version of Slight.
You know what my first thing is?
What's
Lead
that?
actor, Darren Young.
Okay, fair enough.
I thought he would be beautiful in that role.
Well, he is a beautiful looking
He's
man.
a beautiful man.
Let's talk about the fun facts. Directed by a guy that you feel you could do a lot better than. Directed and written by J.D. Dillard, who also directed and wrote the films Judy Goose and the short film Mariah. Both of those were short films, actually. This is his first feature-length film. Dillard was nominated for the Sundance Audience Award for Best of Next category. My personal feeling was that it was well-deserved. Clearly not the opinion of Drew Ferris.
No.
What was the budget for the film, Drew?
Probably in the thousands.
Yeah, close. Yes, actually, you were right.
Really?
$250,000.
It was under $1 million.
It was. Well, how much did it make at the box office?
You know what? Okay, I'll forgive it a little bit, actually. I thought it had like WWE money. Okay.
Thousands.
I give it a little more leeway.
Thousands for a movie is WWE money these days.
Yeah, but that's a valid point. But it's like, I thought it had like millions of dollars, so I thought this was abysmal. Okay, now that I see it's a very cheap movie, I can forgive a lot.
Fair enough. How much did it make at the box office?
Well, it's a WWE film. They had to promote the hell out of it, so let's go into the millions. It's 14.
You're a little more generous than the average film goer. 3.9 million. But
okay.
Still, against the $250,000 budget, clearly a big hit for them.
Made a profit. That's
Which
it.
did.
That's all they need.
I hate to say this, but we're at time already. We still haven't even gotten to the review segments. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll try to get through this as fast as we can.
I'm Andrew Kent, and here's 5 reasons to listen to the We Have Till 5 podcast on the Wrasslun Show Network. Number 5, I'm handsome. Not that you would notice. Number 4, I love wrestling. You love wrestling. We both love wrestling, so you'll love this podcast. Number 3, I talk about everything, from worst pay-per-view names to best Chris Jericho feuds. Number 2, lists are pretty fun. And number 1, everyone's got their favorites. Where does mine line up with yours? Find out every Friday on the Wrasslun Show Network.
Okay, Drew, who would make a better president, Bo or Donald Trump?
I don't know, man. Apparently, I don't know who Bo is, really.
You're lucky I didn't take a spit take right there, because I almost said, when you said, I don't know, I was going to say, really? Really, dude?
Well, no, I really don't know. I mean, maybe because he's a performer, but he's not really. He's a magician. And so is kind of Donald Trump. The only difference is Bo uses cards, Trump uses words.
I'm shaking my head. Bo 100% Bo. God.
Right, because as soon as he's given a secret, like a magic trick, he just blurts it out to the first woman that shows him
At
her
least
pair.
he's a good person. I totally believe Donald Trump would have taken that axe and be like, here you go, slice. All right, good. We're on to the next thing now.
Yeah, but just because he's an
Donald Trump would have taken that gun and shot Angela way before anything.
Just because he's an asshole doesn't mean Bo would make a better president.
I don't know. I would say so. All
right.
I would rather have a nice guy in the White House.
I'd rather have a tough guy that would not take anybody's crap.
You'd want Angelo as president
But
over Donald
both of them
Trump.
have like the same political experience. I don't know who would make a better one. I don't know.
Can't believe that.
All right.
Let's move on to the reviews. Drew, what was the Rotten Tomatoes percentage on this movie?
5.
Now you're just saying it to be disagreeable, sir.
No, what really? I legitimately thought it was 5.
72% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Yes. Of the 36 reviews, 26 believed it was fresh. 10 of them were rotten reviews. So,
all right.
Positive reviews from Ben Sachs of the Chicago Reader. Slight is a minor film with major virtues: tenderness, imagination, and a strong grasp of character and setting.
No. That would fit more with... Again, I watched Push, and I like Push much better than I like this movie.
Christine Lamore of RogerEbert.com. Lattimore, referring to the character,
Bo, yeah.
actor who played Bo, has a magnetic screen presence mixed with a down-to-earth directness. And while he's got swagger for days, he's just as compelling when his character is quietly contemplating his next move. I agree, Christine. Good analysis.
I do not.
Clint Cutchins of Film Inquiry says, Slight's payoff and take-home messages are good enough to mostly forgive its glaring flaws. And I couldn't agree more with that 100%. I felt that was the most accurate review for the film. I don't know how you would feel about that.
Well, let's go in the negative and we'll see how I feel.
Let's see the other side of the coin. From Peter DeBruge of Variety. Dillard's feature debut squanders its high concept and serves up a low-rent Nickelodeon light version of that story, blowing his chance with corny acting, paint-by-numbers plotting, and a dippy score. What'd you think of the score?
I didn't.
Yeah, me either.
I
thought it was fine, but
this music was so generic.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like, all right, it's supposed to tell me how to feel in these
generic
moments.
indie score. I did. Yeah.
So no, I'm with it.
I don't know if I'd call it dippy, but I just would kind of just. All right.
You know what? If it didn't leave an impact, I guess it was kind of dippy.
It existed is kind of how I felt about it. From Stacey Lane Wilson of Dread Central. I just can't recommend you rush to the theater to see it. This movie feels like a practice run. Hopefully the next collaboration between Dillard and Blumhouse, a survival horror called Sweetheart, will be better. I included this one because I wanted to give some attention to their upcoming feature, and I hope it's good. I will be checking it out based upon what I felt about this film.
I'll be waiting.
All right.
I'll wait to hear what people think.
And Roger Moore... No, not James Bond. Roger Moore.
Wait, isn't that one dead?
What's that?
Is
Yeah,
Roger
he
Moore
is.
dead?
I was going to
Okay.
say Roger Moore back from the dead to review Slight.
Oh, this is what we got?
That
the
would
first
be-
version of Reincarnation, he talks about this piece of crap.
That would be a magic trick worth seeing for sure.
If that's how they advertised the film, this film would have been a 10 out of 10.
Overly familiar drug dealer wants to get out plot, saddled with a scientifically insupportable gimmick as its solution. So,
Yeah.
of those three, which would you say was the most accurate?
Definitely the first one, though I do see the points of the other two.
Okay.
Now, I
Well-
never thought of that. It's a by the numbers with a gimmick attached to it. No, I do agree with the first one, but I see a third one's point.
I don't think that it's a bad thing, though, because I think it gives us something. It does give us something new by adding on the gimmick. And it's a gimmick enough to tell you what, the gimmick was enough to get me to watch it. So it does something right with that in that sense. At least that's the way I see it.
So it tricked you into watching a movie.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it, so I don't feel tricked. I don't feel like I didn't get anything that wasn't advertised.
All right. You know what? You gave me a call to action. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you one. Watch Push by our next episode.
You know what? I think I'll try to do that for sure, because I like magic in movies. Something we might discuss in our next video.
Sure.
Little teaser there. All right. Oh, boy, this is going to be tough. Drew, give me your personal review of Slight,
I'll never
please.
watch it again. I didn't like watching it. It's just... we've seen the story a bunch of times. Nobody's really interesting in it except the bad guy, and apparently the bad guy's not even interesting to the people that like the movie. So I guess if you like my recommendations, I recommend Never for this one.
All right. Well, my personal review, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think Jacob Lattimore does an impressive job carrying the film as Bo, while Seychelle Gabriel does an admirable job supporting him as Holly. The rest of the cast is trying, although Dule Hill goes a little too cartoonish villain at times for me. I think this was a very good first outing for J.D. Dillard as a writer and director of his first-length feature, and it sounds like Jason Blumhouse agrees with me. It isn't a perfect film, but it was above average for me, and I recommend that you check this one out. Drew, what's your pay-per-view review for this one, or comparison?
I think the best one I could think of was Hell in a Cell.
Okay, please explain why.
Because there's so much potential here. Mm-hmm. It's like with Slight. I thought this is brilliant. A magician a magician drug dealer by itself is a brilliant concept.
Right.
Like when the cop came in and he tried to say, "Where'd you hide it?" It's like, that's brilliant.
One of the points that I forgot to bring up that I wanted to earlier was that I liked how they used his tricks in practical situations throughout the movie, escaping the handcuffs, hiding the drugs,
finding the guy's phone.
Yeah, all of those things were really. I liked the way they called back to that stuff and used it. They didn't just let it go to waste.
Yeah,
go on.
As
Sorry,
a magician, that's what I think.
A
magician drug dealer, heck of a concept. In fact, I would have liked that more if they took out the electromagnet. If it wasn't just this guy teleport, it was just a magician. And he used illusions to take him out. I think that would have been a much more interesting movie, but low budget, that's fine. Anyway, so the reason I pick Hell in a Cell is because, like Hell in a Cell, there's so much potential for there. There's so much creative angles you can use with a cell that you can exit the ring from. But I can't remember a great Hell in a Cell match from Hell in a Cell. There's great potential, but it flops when trying to be cool and edgy and out there, because the PG era, you can't really do a lot that you should be able to do in a match called Hell in a Cell.
All right. My pay-per-view review was Bragging Rights 2009. We have an interesting pay-per-view concept anchored by two strong performances, Randy Orton and John Cena, who put on a tremendous Iron Man match in the main event, and an above-average remainder card leading to a highly entertaining event. Needless to say, you and I are split on this one, Andrew.
But I'm Drew. Andrew's the top 5 guy.
Not when I'm mad at you.
When he gets real mad, it's the entire name, middle name included. He goes all out for it. But anyway, I think this is an interesting one.
Yeah,
I really like this because now I do say never. I don't want you to go to the film, but the reason I think you should go watch it, just to get Adam and I's perspective. Do you agree with me more? Do you agree with Adam more?
I think that's a great statement there, Drew, and I think that's what we should add to our call to action. I had 2 calls to action for the listeners this week, but I'm going to make it 3. The first one is what Drew said. Go watch the film and give us your opinion. What did you think of the film? More importantly, who was right, Drew or me?
Are you Team Adam or are you Team Drew?
Of course, we want you to share this podcast with a friend as your second call to action. And third, what's your favorite magic trick? I thought that was a cute little call to action. What's your favorite magic trick? Do you have a favorite magic trick? Is there a magic trick that you've seen that's kind of blown you away?
There was I went to Vegas one year. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of street performers. And it's even though it's been ruined for me, because, internet ruins everything, right. There was this guy that was able to walk across a bed of nails handstand.
Cool.
With his hands. And I'm there. I'm right. It's the first time I've ever been up close to a magician and just see him put pressure there where it should puncture through at least the webbing and just goes no problem. And I put my hand there as well to show, no, that's sharp. And since then, it's always been in my head. Like, even though I know how he did it, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody because
please don't.
I'm not that kind of jerk.
Drew is not the internet.
I'm not the internet. But it's just, when I saw that for the first time, it absolutely blew my mind. And that's the one that's kind of just stuck with me. Even though I know what happened, it's just being there was so cool.
I'm still impressed by the card on the other side of the glass trick.
From the movie?
Well, I originally saw David Blaine do it on a TV special. A lot of the tricks that he does, I originally saw on David Blaine specials, like when he talks about putting the pin through the hand, Blaine does that trick. And I don't know how he did that one. I mean,
they kind of spoiled it.
They spoiled it in the movie, but I mean, I'm still willing to believe that may not be the way to do it. I still want to believe in magic. I still don't know how they do that. I still don't know how they do the card on the other side of the glass trick. No. I don't want to know. It still just blows my mind away every time I see it. I think it's just spectacular. So I still love that magic trick. So that's it for this week's Ropes to Reels. Do you have anything else you want to add in, Drew, before we sign off?
No, I think we covered it all. I do like we finally have an episode where we don't agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're still friends at the end of it.
Even though you used my full name.
I did. Listen, friends get mad at each other. It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week on Ropes to Reels. Until next week. Hey, wait. Speaking of next week, Drew.
Oh, right.
What do you not have a movie for us this week?
Give me 5 seconds and I'll think of one.
Okay, I'll tell you what. While he does that, I will go ahead and talk about our social media presence. You can follow us at I Like Drew Ferris and at Adam Conta. And of course, we encourage you to follow the Wrasslun Show Network at The Wrasslun Show. Check us out on iTunes, rate and review us, and visit us on Facebook.com/The Wrasslun Show. Also, since this is our anniversary week, I want to thank everyone who has been with the Wrasslun Show Network for 1 full year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Drew, you look a little bit more prepared.
I am. I figured it out.
Okay, great. What are we watching next week?
I want to watch The Longest Yard.
That is a great choice.
I haven't seen that movie in years. It's in my collection. I'm just thinking, you know what? How about I go smorgasbord? What is the movie that I have that has a bunch of wrestling cameos in it? Got it.
Yeah, this one sure does. And we'll get to all of those cameos next week. Until then, I'm at Adam Kota.
I'm at I Like Drew Ferris.
And that's a wrap.